Hi, thanks very much for clicking on the video link. My name is Natalie Armstrong-Motin, and this is another video in the series of Idle Chat for the American Bar Association Section for Dispute Resolution. And today I get to have an idle chat with not just a colleague, but a friend. Jeff Kichaven, you and I have been friends for almost 3 decades.
I think that's right.
Of course, we were just children when we met, but 3 decades, long enough. All right. And Jeff, you have very generously let me subject you to an idle chat experience. I'm very happy about that.
I'm happy about it too, Natalie. Always great to be in conversation with you. And for the benefit of the section of dispute resolution, it's a treat. Thank you.
Very nice. Oh, good. All right. So, Jeff, we just shuffle up the cards and the cards will dictate what it is that we get to talk about today. Are you all right with that?
Sure.
All right. Let's see what we've got here. All right. First card reads, Jeff, when was the last time you stayed up all night?
Natalie, the last time I stayed up all night was probably when I was in college, working on a term paper. And I recall at the time I was able to tolerate a lot of caffeine and a lot of pizza and a lot of other Coca-Cola and other things to keep me going. And I don't think it turned out as complete gibberish, but it was not an experience that I'm eager to repeat. Now I find that getting enough sleep is critically important, not only to effectiveness as a mediator, but to general health. To people who have not read the book, Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, I recommend it really highly. It's probably the single best health-related book I have read. And I truly changed some habits and changed my life for the better as a result of reading Matthew Walker's great book, Why We Sleep. I recommend it to everybody.
Sleep is so important. If we're not well rested, we can't possibly do our work in helping anybody find durable, reasonable, resolution. It's just not going to happen. Let's see, Jeff. If you were given $10 million to open a museum, what kind of museum would it be?
What kind of a museum would I open? It would probably be all the health modalities, Natalie, that are open to people. I think we'd have a hyperbaric oxygen therapy studio in there for people to enjoy hyperbaric oxygen therapy, so great for the immune system. There'd be an acupuncture wing, there'd be some chiropractors, there'd be some nutritionists and lessons on nutrition, and certainly a place for people to nap, get a little extra sleep. I think that people, particularly every additional year, every advancing year, I pay more and more attention to my health. A lot of that is the good influence of Liz Ryan, my wonderful wife of 5 months. We got married on February 26th. We were so delighted that you were there proposing a toast. It was a great event, a great happy day. And I find that the more attention I pay to health, not only am I more effective, but I'm just a happier person. So I think a museum where people could experience some of these things and get on the road to improving their own health would be a great place to start.
Interactive museum.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good choice. Jeff, I don't actually have a card for this, but I'm curious. How does one find themselves on the ever famous dating game?
Well, I was never on the dating game, so I don't really know how one would find themselves on the dating game. I was on a game show when I was in college, a game show called Split Second.
Split Second, my mistake.
And this was in 1975. I think I was 18 years old. And several months ago, maybe a couple years ago, somebody brought to my attention that the episode is actually available on YouTube. So if anyone wants to see just how bushy my hair was back in those days and the mutton chop sideburns, I was man, was I a fashion statement back then. You can look up old episodes of Split Second on YouTube, and if you can stop laughing long enough, you can take a look at just what I looked like when I was 18 years old and sophomore in college.
Jeff Kichaven.
Right.
Okay, tell us about Jeff.
Well, like Robin, I go to the University of California, Berkeley, and I'm a sophomore majoring in political science. And when I graduate, I too want to go to law school. I'm a big baseball fan. I like to play tennis. I like swimming and bowling.
All right, you've been married how many years now?
None.
Oh, none. Oh, you're also a bachelor. Okay.
You were crushing it.
I won $545, which seemed like a lot of money in those days.
You remember your first car?
The first car that I ever really drove, my parents shared a car when we were growing up. My dad took the bus to work. There was a convenient bus route. And then he joined another, he was an architect. He joined another architecture company and needed a car. So he got, I think, the least expensive car available. He went to an auction of state of California surplus property. This was in the early 1970s, and he got a 1964 Dodge Dart, and it was painted government gray, and it used to have a decal on the side. The decal was called the meatball, and the meatball was a decal of the sign, the symbol of the great state of California, the state seal. And they took off the meatball, but there was still, took off some of the paint with it. So there was this kind of blank circle on the side of the gray car. It was such a stripped down model, it did not even have a radio. Now, I was at Beverly Hills High School in those days, and many of my friends on their 16th birthday, they were tooling around in Dodge Challengers, and a couple of the really ritzy kids had BMWs. And when my dad came home from work, I had access to this 1964 Dodge Dart, which I played to my advantage. I gave it a nickname. We called it the Gray Ghost, and it became kind of a status symbol that there should even be in existence such a thing as a car without an AM radio. And it became kind of a status symbol to take a ride in the Gray Ghost and pull into the parking lot at the House of Pies or Tommy's Hamburgers next to all the Dodge Challengers, BMWs, and other new cars that some of the other kids had on their 16th birthdays.
That's excellent.
Yeah,
I can picture it. I can picture it. You gotta make the best with what you got.
It went right with the mutton chops.
There you go. A matching set. Ashtrays in the door,
Uh-huh.
windows that you had to manually roll down.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I remember wing windows.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I was there. All right,
And when
Jeff.
when you took it to a car wash, you really had to crank that window tight to make sure that it was all the way up and no water would leak into the car.
Sweet ride.
It was.
Yeah. Jeff, do you speak any other languages?
You know, I speak a little Spanish. I took Spanish in high school. So there are a few words of that which remain in my brain. Living in Los Angeles, that does come in handy sometimes. I can navigate around the prayer book in Hebrew, and though that's my experience with foreign languages. I wish I'd learned more foreign languages as a kid.
Having multiple languages opens up so many different perspectives on the world and people and events. It is really good stuff. I encourage all young people, well, I encourage everybody, regardless of age, to pick up another language or two or three. All right. Jeff, next card. Who would you nominate to have their own reality TV show?
Probably you, Natalie. Yes, I think that what I've heard about your adventures in France and navigating a new culture and a new society, you know, the American in Paris was a big musical, and I think perhaps the American in Normandy would be a great sequel to that. I think following you around would be a tremendous reality show.
That's really flattering. You could watch me talk to my neighbor's chickens, you know, make mistakes in bakeries. Yeah, I can see it would be glamorous and fascinating.
We'll get right on it.
Yeah, yeah, we'll call Liz. Jeff, what is the spiciest food you've ever eaten?
Oh my gosh. When I went to India, I've been to India twice, Natalie, 2018 and 2019, to judge law student mediation advocacy competitions through a wonderful group called The Pact, run by Nishant Leroya, Jonathan Rodriguez, Gracious Timothy Dunna, and a number of other real superstar young up-and-coming people in India who are really making their mark over there. The Pact is a wonderful group, and mediation in India is really growing. But I'm not a lover of spicy food. And I found that when I was in India, I would be asking about such things in restaurants, and there were two words that I came to dread more than any other two words in the English language, always accompanied by the same gesture. And that was when somebody in the restaurant, in response to my question, would go, well, little spicy. And if they said little spicy, I knew I had to flee. They have very spicy food in India. And actually, there was one restaurant in New Delhi where I was asking about just how spicy, little spicy is. And they were honest enough and kind enough to me to say, sir, we don't really think we can serve you food here that you would enjoy, because everything here is really pretty spicy. And they said there's a restaurant with a more European menu around the block, and they called ahead and got me a reservation at the restaurant with the more European menu. The food was delicious, and it was more satisfying to my American palate, shall we say.
Yeah, it's hard to be on that end of the spectrum. It's a lot easier if you can tolerate everything and then eat everything. But if you have that sensitivity, it can be tough to be abroad. I feel you. Jeff, what is your favorite way to get some exercise? And this is a family channel.
Yes, I understand. That's a dangerous question to ask a newlywed, Natalie. So
that's why I put in the caution.
right. We do yoga a couple times a week at the Los Angeles Athletic Club. That's a great way to get exercise. Annalyn Revilla is a wonderful yoga teacher down there. And over past years, Cecile Miranda, Marlene Weiss were also terrific yoga teachers at the LA Athletic Club. Just walking around the neighborhood. And we live in a beautiful walking around area. So early in the morning and early in the evening, you can go for a walk on some of the streets. They're filled with people walking their dogs and kids going out on their bikes with their parents. And it's a very friendly family environment. So we really like that. Liz has been in an exercise routine for back health and general body strength for many, many years. So if I wake up early enough on alternate days when she does her early morning exercise routine, I sometimes join in with her. And I'm thinking about signing up at the gym for some weightlifting and weight training, just to improve upper body strength and general muscle fitness.
There you go. A little resistance training to stave off osteoporosis.
Yeah, and it's right. Got to keep our bones strong. Got to keep strong as we're almost at middle age, almost little bit away, and so we got to start thinking about these things more proactively.
It is really important, but good for you on the yoga.
Thank you.
Jeff, when you vacation, do you prefer the beach or the mountains?
For many years, Natalie, when my kids are small, we went to the Lair of the Golden Bear, which is the family camp run by the Berkeley Alumni Association. It's in Pinecrest, California, Tuolumne County, the Gold Rush country. And I have tremendous happy memories of going to the Lair of the Bear with my 3 kids. And, they're wonderful vacations because they really require kids to use their imaginations. They're in the creek and they're on the hillside and they're playing among all the gorgeous redwood trees that are up there, and seeing the amount of imagination that kids call upon and that kids use to invent games and create games up there. It's a tremendous way to go on vacation. We would see the same families year after year. And now I'm very happy to say that my daughter Brianna and son-in-law Daniel and their adorable little baby Tobias just turned 1 a couple of weeks ago. Tobias made his first appearance at the Lair of the Golden Bear with Brianna and Daniel. And Brianna was telling me stories about pushing him in the swing and all the other delightful memories that I have of playing with Brianna herself up there when she was a kid. She's now enjoying those same experiences with Tobias, and it warms my heart.
That's such good stuff. And to be in a place where there's no screens, where you're really just enjoying the moment, enjoying nature, enjoying your family, that's such good stuff.
Query whether that's still the case. Certainly in the 1980s, 1990s, and 2000s, when I was going up there with my kids, there were no screens, there was no internet, no Wi-Fi at the Lair. I think they've put in Wi-Fi, and I'm not so sure about the no screens issue right now. I think the Wi-Fi was actually put in at the behest of some lawyers, for better or worse. And I hope it's still the case that people are able to put their screens away and just enjoy the beauties of nature.
It really is a great way to exist if you can let it go for a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. And Jeff, I'll ask you the same question that I ask all of my guests on Idle Chat as the last question. And that is, what do you love most about the work that you do in the resolution industry?
Oh my gosh, Natalie, what do I love most? Where to begin? I don't even know where to start in that. First of all, the feeling that you're really helping people, the feeling that you're doing something to help people put a difficult situation behind them on acceptable terms so that they can move on with their lives, with their careers, with their jobs, with their businesses, with their families, with all aspects of their lives. It's a tremendously gratifying feeling, and it's visceral in the mediations when you can just tell somebody has turned the corner, and all of a sudden a dispute which had been a fresh wound for so many years becomes ancient history, just like that. And you know that people are going to get that deal done one way or the other that day. It's a delicious feeling when that happens. The feeling of helping lawyers be appreciated for the good work that they're doing. It's being a lawyer is hard. I did commercial litigation for the first 15 years of my practice and ultimately left that work to become a mediator. And I still identify pretty closely with the lawyers who are doing the work, the frustrations, the anxieties, disappointments, and the gratifications and successes that they feel. And so one thing that I like to say about the mediator's role is that at the end of the mediation day, the clients should see a big red S on their lawyers' chests and really appreciate just what a great job their lawyers have done, bringing the case to the point of maximum value, maximum utility, maximum satisfaction. And they're just intrinsically so much about it, the intellectual challenges, the psychological challenges. How do we deal with these people this day? How do I customize things? How can I be of greatest service to people? How can I help people be happier when they leave than when they arrived? All those kinds of thoughts and feelings keep me going. When I was a very young lawyer, there was a more senior guy. He was probably younger than I am now. In the office, he was of counsel to the firm. His name was Mac Goodstein. And Mac was a great guy. He played college football for UCLA in the 1940s. And in his office, he had a big 4-foot by 6-foot photograph of himself crossing the goal line. He ran a punt back for a touchdown when he played for the UCLA Bruins. And that's a rare accomplishment in football, to run a punt back for a touchdown. He had a picture of himself crossing the goal line, scoring that touchdown at the LA Coliseum. But anyway, Mac gave me a piece of advice that I've never forgotten. He says, "How do you like some unsolicited advice?" I was a first-year associate. I was in no position to say no. I said, for sure, Mac, what's the advice? He says, this is the only piece of career advice you will ever need. And I said, sure, Mac, what you got? And he says, Monday must always be your favorite day of the week. I said, why? He said, because that's the day that you get to go back to doing the work you love. And for many years as a litigator, that was not so much the case for me. As a mediator for the past 28 years, it has always been the case for me that getting up in the morning, whether it's Monday or any other day, and getting to devote myself to the work I love, that's it.
It is a real privilege to be involved in this industry, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. The industry is growing, it's developing, feeling that we're able to make a positive contribution to the direction of the industry, and hopefully we can be justified in calling it a profession.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, thank you so much for joining me for an idle chat. It was really nice to, play.
You're welcome, Natalie. It's always a delight to talk to you. And usually we're talking primarily about business stuff. And to be able to have a little more of a lighthearted, different sort of conversation, it's a real treat. Thank you so much for the opportunity.